Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.
When I heard FBI, the first thought that came to my mind was, you have got to be kidding me. No way this is happening. Like, I'm not wearing any of the flat jacket or the military style helmets that some of the other guys were wearing. I was just a guy, a MAGA hat on. And I was really shocked when I opened a door. We had two agents turn their guns right at me. And all I could say, because my dog was, freaking out, was, please don't shoot my dog.
Siaka Massaquoi, welcome
to
to Daily Signal. Thank you so much for being here. So we're here to talk about your experience at the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. But first, I want to get a little bit of your background. So you were the first vice chair of the Los Angeles Republican Party.
Yep.
And you're also a writer and actor for the Babylon Bee.
Yeah. Well, writer and actor in a general sense, but I've worked with the Babylon Bee. I currently work with Daily Wire now. Been in Hollywood up until September, was almost 20 years in Hollywood as a working actor. Then I got involved. I actually got involved in politics more because of what happened at January 6th. So it got me more involved. I ran for local office in 22 and then became the vice chair of the largest county in the country in 23.
So what brought you to the Capitol on January 6th?
Well, a plane. No, there was, it was the third time I was there. The first time I went was for a Blexit event that Candace Owens' organization, when she was a part of it at the time. And then after that, I went after the first MAGA rally there, and it was amazing. And so the third time was going there was, I wanted to be a part of history. I thought it was going to be a historical day. I didn't realize what type of history, but I definitely knew it was going to be historical, and I wanted to capture with my phone as much of that history as possible.
What did you experience outside of the Capitol before people entered the Capitol?
So I got there an hour after everything went down. So all the footage of people fighting with cops and the cops, shooting tear gas and the rotunda thing, I got there after all that. So when I got there, people were kind of hanging around. And mind you, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, because how TV can put things together and editing can work, is the violence didn't happen all over. A lot of that stuff happened in little pockets. So when I went there and I was walking around, I got interviewed when I was standing by a scaffold. I ran into some friends from Beverly Hills. I walked around and saw people were just kind of meandering around. People were just kind of floating around. It wasn't like a big, fights going on or anything like that. I did see where I thought was weird, where two guys in separate locations trying to push other men to go forward. That I did see, which was really weird. And then for me, I was walking in. I went to the west side. As I was checking in, I actually even said out loud, I was like, "Hey, is this where they're letting people in?" And somebody's like, "Yeah." And people were going into this doorway, much like you would go into a college football game or going to some type of a musical festival, where everyone's just kind of funneling into one area, doing a slow walk because it's so packed. I get to the threshold. I took about 2-3 steps in, and then we're stopped because there was a cop there and then another one, and everyone's just kind of just stopped in the area. As I'm recording, I actually see there's maybe 12 to 18 cops just standing against the wall hanging out. So again, there was no real sense of this was Pearl Harbor or 9/11, as some Democrats try to say. And so I started, use my phone, and I started to capture as much as I could standing in this doorway. And then a riot cop, the guy or a cop in riot gear, comes up and he said, "I need you guys to go back the other way now." And I was like, "Okay, we're going to do it. We're being reasonable." I turned back around and tell the people behind me, "Hey guys, we got to go back the other way," and left. I mean, that was pretty much it. And walked around a little bit, recorded some more, and then walked back to my hotel.
Why did you decide to enter the Capitol?
I was curious. I was just curious. Like everyone else, we're going. It was more like, let's see what's going on, what's happening. And again, just like I told you in the story, no cop, even the cop that I talked to, who we subpoenaed to if we were going to have to go to trial, who was going to come in and be part of my defense, no one that I talked to outside of that one cop told us anything about leaving. So again, and by the time I got there, it was an hour after any of this stuff happens, an hour after Ashley Babbitt was shot, an hour after the tear gas. So as I'm meandering in with everyone else, And I even turned and talked to one of the cops because I was joking. I was like, I heard they got on, in Nancy Pelosi's office. Is that true? And he's like, I don't know. And at no time until that other guy comes did anyone, even with the cops standing against the wall, there was at no point did anyone say, hey, you guys should be here or leave or anything. And the only time given directive, not only did I follow, but I also repeated it back to the people behind me.
So what followed immediately after you left the Capitol?
It was kind of funny. So I'm walking away from the Capitol and I look over to my right and I see cars just kind of parked, not even touched. And I jokingly said out loud to just people walking back the other way, I'm like, if this was a BLM riot, all those cars would be burning right now. And everyone kind of chuckled about that. And I went back to my hotel room, left the next day to go back to Los Angeles where I was living at the time, and thought nothing of it. I started seeing raids happening where people were getting raided. I actually thought, oh, well, that's probably some people that broke the glass and maybe fought some cops. I knew I was okay. Like, I recorded a video as I was leaving. I was like, this is the people's house. They would let us in. That was my understanding at the time. I didn't know people were even let in. So for me, I was like, they wouldn't let us in. They kicked us out of the house, which in one moment was like, when the guy said get out, that's what I was in a sense, bothered by. So then, I saw people get raided and didn't think I was going to be on the list because I didn't touch anybody. I, complied with police when police even gave me a directive. And then June 10th of 21, I got raided. My house got raided by the FBI.
So that was the first time you were contacted by law enforcement regarding your presence at the Capitol?
Yep. It was a raid to my house and 15 agents and guns drawn and everything. It was crazy.
So what transpired and what was going through your head as you were talking to law enforcement?
Well, when I heard, because my room was at the end of the hallway of the house that I was living at the time. And when I heard FBI, the first thought that came to my mind was, you have got to be kidding me. Like, no way this is happening. I was I'm not wearing any of the flat jacket or the military style helmets that some of the other guys were wearing. I was just a guy with, a MAGA hat on. And I was really shocked when I opened a door. We had two agents turn their guns right at me. And all I could say, because my dog was, freaking out, was, please don't shoot my dog. And so when they grabbed me and they cuffed me to go outside, I didn't see any of my other roommates, which was my best friend, my two godsons who were 3 and 6 at the time were there. I saw Bryson, the youngest one, being put in a car by a female agent. Cars were all out in my street. I'm cuffed. The guy's like, I was like, let me see the warrant. He's like, this isn't an arrest. This isn't an arrest. It's just a search warrant. I'm like, well, I need to talk to my lawyer. He goes, this is not what it is. I'm like, well, let me see the warrant. He goes, you will get it to you after we clear the house. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I can't believe this is happening. And because I know I didn't do anything that would warrant a raid and armed U.S. agents at my house. Like, it just didn't. It was very confusing. It was very it didn't match what anything that I did, let alone to a level like that. Like, it just didn't match. I was just really confused and frustrated at the same time.
So what did they do? What followed?
Well, they took me outside. They were inside, I guess, clearing the house, as they said. As we went inside, then they took me to my back patio to question me. The other agents were pulling stuff out of my room, stuff that I still haven't gotten back to this day. So at this point, it's going to go on 4 years, and I haven't gotten never charged at the time and wasn't arrested. It was just a search warrant, as they said. It took my computer, my cell phone, my flash drives, my external hard drives, my journals that I used when I was in program. It's just like, and my MAGA hat that I mentioned earlier. So they took all those things because they were like, oh, well, the MAGA hat, we saw you on CCTV. That's where you have to take it. And you're just like, I don't understand how that's evidence, but it is what it is. And so I was just when I was talking to him, I was expressing how confused and how frustrating this is, that this isn't America. My family comes from a place where my grandfather was killed by disagreeing with the people in power there. So that's the country I come from. And to come to America and now seeing, because you disagree with the current group that was in charge, that they will come to your house knowing you didn't do anything violent with guns in your face like that. Reeves, that just no one can truly get it unless they're in there, and to know that they're able to muster that type of force against you is really disheartening. It can be extremely frightening.
Yeah, very frightening. So you were later arrested, correct, and charged. What was that situation like? How did that happen?
Well, so that was 3 years after the raid. And in between those 3 years, I was on a no flight list or terror flight list. I don't know how you call it. So I was being harassed every time I flew. In that instance where I got arrested on November 30th of 23, I was actually coming back I was in the movie Lady Ballers for Daily Wire. And I'm coming back. My wife and I, she's 7 months pregnant. We're coming back to Los Angeles. We land in Burbank Airport, which is a smaller airport. So as we get off the plane, we're going to have to walk on a tarmac to go inside the building. And as literally as I step foot on a tarmac, as soon as I step foot, 4 agents, boom, Siaka Massaquoi, what? Yep, you're under arrest. You're coming with us. We're taking you for events of January 6th. And I'm just, again, I'm taken aback because up at this point, they know where I'm at. They could have easily called me. I would have turned myself in if that was the case. But they made a spectacle out of this, right? And I kept saying over and over because they took me and they wouldn't tell me initially what my charges were. I'm like, first I was like, why are you arresting me? And they go, you know why? I go, no, you're going to tell me why you're taking me away from my wife right now. And then some guy shouted, January 6th. I'm like, I didn't do anything. And then they're like, well, you're going to have to come with us tonight. We're trying not to embarrass you. I'm like, it's too late. You did it on the tarmac where everyone's getting off a plane. It's already embarrassing now, by only God's grace. And thank God we planned this before, but Charlotte didn't have to go by herself. We had family friends coming to pick us up, and no one. And at the situation, she wasn't left alone that whole night or the next day because think of a 7-month pregnant woman, her husband just taken away by the U.S. government. If she's by herself, her head's spinning. And what does that do to the baby? I know first stories of a lot of people who going through January 6th got miscarriages because of the stress that was going on with the government on top of them. They wouldn't tell me what my charges were until we got to the jail. In the car when I'm just berating them about how they could have called me. They know where I lived. I literally sued the government for raiding my house. So they have all the information on me. And if they were going to sit there and charge me, they could have easily called me. I'm like, where I was vice chair. The agent sitting next to me said, well, we didn't want you to be prepared. So they did it like this on purpose to want me to basically caught me with my pants down, if you will. So we didn't have any way to be ready to just walk in. And they let other people, mind you, turn themselves in. But they didn't let me turn myself in. And they came at me with this full force. And when we got to the jail, I found out that I was charged with 4 misdemeanors. So a raid on my house, 3 years of harassment every time I flew, and then ripped away from my wife and an arrest on a tarmac for misdemeanors.
How long were you in their custody for?
Only the 24 hours. I just spent the night. The next day, at the bond hearing, the judge released and let me go. And so that was just wonderful that we got to go home together the next day.
How do you think that your presence at the Capitol has affected your personal and professional life?
Well, it definitely has affected in both ways. I was in Hollywood for a long time, and after that, when I was raided, the LA Times, the Daily Mail, the Chicago Tribune, because I grew up in the Midwest, everyone wrote about this, Netflix actor raided. So from a entertainment standpoint, from the liberal media, I was done. There was going to be little to any chance to salvage my career over there. But because I had started in 2020 to, in a sense, shift my focus over to what I really believe, because I had to hide a lot in plain sight because I voted for Trump in 2016 and being around a lot of the Hollywood people, I watched people lose their minds over this guy. It was really insane. So in 2020, I started shifting over. I started hanging out with more MAGA people, if you will. Then I started speaking more openly about my beliefs. So I was fortunate enough to connect with the guys from the Daily Wire, guys with Babylon Bee. So on that note, as I was losing this thing over here, I was gaining this world over here, which is aligns more with what I believe in and wants to do projects and stories that connect with more of what I want to start to, put out into our culture and ultimately be able to share with my children as they get older. So, yeah, it's affected where I went from one side to the other, but, now I'm working directly with Daily Wire. And I think there's opportunities there to help build the culture, the conservative culture, into a place that can capture the heart again. And I'm really excited about being a part of that.
That's awesome. So, what are some of your goals then, coming from this situation? What do you want to see moving forward, like politically and socially?
Well, first off, I want to see the truth of that day come out. From a political standpoint, from the Trump administration, I want them to see that we were set up. It was a honeypot. People were literally entrapped by our own government. We need to see that and know that. I want people to, but that spell to be broken, that the mainstream media has all the answers, the only ones that give you any truth. I also want individuals to get more involved in their community so that we're not caught with our pants down. That started with COVID, really. I want to, from an entertainment standpoint, I want to do more scripted content so we can, like I said, capture the heart of young people on the right, or people in general, younger people, because I know a lot of young people, they don't want what's going on the left anymore, but like sometimes there's nothing then to grasp and hold on to on the right. So, doing things with especially Babylon B, we're doing comedy, and that's a great way to capture the heart. But I want to make, film, something that can be in the culture in a way to revitalize the love for our country. And through art, I think it's very important because you can't legislate the heart. And so if we can, just like Jesus did, tell stories, tell our parables, that's the best way to capture the heart and get our culture to shift to what we believe is the better way of living.
This has been a really big week for you. Obviously, on Monday, we had Inauguration Day, and President Donald Trump pardoned you. So what thoughts did you have after you were pardoned?
Oh, man. I was an MC over at the Oregon Republican Party inauguration ball. So, I heard he was doing it. And in the middle of the event, actually, somebody sent me a link to the whitehouse.gov page where he actually had the full pardons for January 6th and the events of that day. And I'm reading, and the first thing I did was I went to go find my wife because she texted me she was in line to get me some more food. And I'm looking to go find her. And as soon as I found her, I just hugged her. I showed her and I hugged her and I'm like, it's over. And, just like, he just wept, it was, it's crazy because I'm a believer in Christ and I know he's had my back through this whole thing. But at the same time, even with Charlotte, like she met me after the raid, so we've never been together with this dark cloud over us, and now it was over. And it's just a mix of emotion of joy and excitement, and you want to release, but then like I said, I couldn't really let go completely because I was emceeing this event, so I had to kind of turn back up. So I was able to go, and a band was playing, and before they started the next song, I was like, I got to say something. So I went up there and I announced that it was officially January 6th had officially been pardoned, and it was just such a glorious moment to share that with so many people. And be honest with you, Reeves, it's still hitting. There's still different moments of what it means for this to be over. It's really, there's a lot of different things, a lot of good, but majority good, and want to see the truth come out of that day, feeling vindicated. My case was actually dismissed, so the pardon will come to cover them never coming back to me again. So it is, it's just, it was just a lot of awesomeness, a lot of heavy emotions.
So this has been a really good week for you, but there's also been a little bit of controversy. As you were saying earlier, there are people who vandalized the Capitol, there are people who assaulted the Capitol Police, and their sentences were also pardoned or commuted. Yep. So do you agree with the president's decision to pardon people so broadly?
Yes. Because like I said earlier, this was entrapment. Just like the Gretchen Whitmore kidnapping situation. If they don't come and, you know, offer these guys the means to do it, those guys don't put themselves in that situation. This thing, and I've seen videos where Capitol Police removed the fencing and the signs that said it was a restricted area. I've also seen videos where people peacefully standing there were shot with pepper spray bullets. So a lot of this was people responding to being attacked. And I find it rich that the side that was screaming defund the police for a year and a half is all of a sudden not worried about police officers being assaulted. Nah, miss me with that. Plus, a lot of these people who did attack cops have been in jail for multiple years. How long are they supposed to be in jail? Like, no, we were entrapped by the Biden administration. Everything that happened after that, no, you wiped the slate clean because it was entrapment. And no one actually even talks about, if you think about this is one of the most secured areas in the world. Why are we not putting the onus on who let the security breach happen? Because it wasn't people with sticks and flags that broke through one of the most secure places ever on the planet. It was a failure of the security apparatus, and then there's no question to them. Because I know if I had a bodyguard, he'd let me get stabbed. He's not going to be my bodyguard anymore because he can't do the job of protecting me. But yet we keep quiet and I always want to put it back on the people who were set up. No, the wide, broad pardons of everyone is exactly what was needed because the government did it. Nancy Pelosi dropped the ball on her job to not only to accept the request of National Guards, but she set up the Capitol Guards. Majority of them were on the other side when they knew that a Trump rally was the other way and people were marching down. They set the majority on the other side. So the level of incompetence there from the people who are supposed to protect that area. Let's find out what's going on with them. That's what we got to do. Let's find out why things were what they were set up the way it was.
Looping back to you here, what do you want people to understand about the circumstances of your case and the reasons that you were pardoned?
I want them to understand, because I think the circumstances in my case are very similar to everyone else. We were set up by our own government. I think, again, people need to understand what that is and what that looks like. That is ultimately, a color revolution, which has been established across the world in different regimes by the CIA. They did it in Liberia, where my family's from, where we had a 20-year civil war where kids were killing each other over, fake false promises. The CIA and our apparatus, they turned it back on us. They turned it back on people to hate each other. They started with COVID. If you weren't this, then you're ultimately the enemy. I mean, they've been doing it a long time with like everyone on the right was Nazis, right? But COVID turned it up. Then you saw if you didn't put a black square, then you're not part of the solution. They did the same thing in Nazi Germany when it's like, when it comes to putting stars on the Jews' chest to see who is the other. They did the same thing in Mao's China, where they had the young people go after the old people because the history is the problem. If you can wipe them out, then now we can have such a prosperous future. No, this is what they did and what they've turned on American people, whether it's me or anyone else, even the grandma who took selfies. They set and they turn the weight of the government and their intelligence sabotage on the American people. I want everyone to understand that our government came after us unjustly, and they set us up to come after us.
Well, Siaka Massaquoi, thank you so much for talking to me at the Daily Signal. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Reeves. Appreciate you.
Subscribe to get the news the legacy media won't tell you and only the Daily Signal can bring to you.